Hey guys, I haven't done a video in a super long time, so I thought, hey, why not do another one? It's, getting to be fall season. It's starting to get cold in Canada. Super rainy and chilly today. People are pulling out scarves to wear, so I thought I'd show you guys how to make an infinity scarf. These are my most super popular item. Everybody's always like, make me an infinity scarf, make me an infinity scarf. They're like my #1 seller. These ones specifically are a really nice stitch. It's called a seed stitch. I make them on a circular needle. If you guys don't know how to do knitting and purling, don't sweat it. That's what you will need to know how to do for this, but I'm going to show you how to do it all. It's super easy. If I can figure it out, you can definitely do it too. So we'll learn how to make this today. So you'll need a pair of circular knitting needles. So circular needles are just like, knitting needles, but they have like a cord that hooks them together. For a scarf, you want, like a pretty short cord. So when you go to pick them up in the store, don't get the big giant, like you can get this like really wicked long. Don't do that. That's for blankets. But yeah, grab yourself a pair of 15 US number 15 or 10 millimeter, circular knitting needles, and pick yourself up a skein of a bulky yarn. It doesn't really matter like what the weight is of the yarn. This is the yarn I'm using today because I just like the color of it. It's pretty nice. You can get it at Walmart. It's whatever. So they even tell you like, here's the size of needles or whatever you should be using. Doesn't really matter. You do what you want. Just make sure you get like a yarn that's like a little bit thicker, because it'll work up, a lot nicer. And if you have a bulky scarf, you want a bulky yarn. So nothing, I wouldn't go like any kind of thinner than this, but I mean, do what's in your heart. So yeah, this is a bulky #5, just so you know. Anyway, okay, so what you're gonna do, very first thing, you have to measure out your yarn. So when I'm doing this, everybody kind of has to figure out what their own measurements are. What I do is I run this yarn up the length, like I hold it, just like a little bit. This is where I grab it, hold it here, pull it all the way up my arm, which you can't see right now what I'm doing, but I pull it up to my yarn, my like top of my shoulder. So I go, there's one length that I've measured, and then I do it again, pull it all the way up to my shoulder again. So, here's my original, there's now, oh, and a piece of my hair, awesome. My hair gets knitted into lots of scarves. Don't tell people, but that's how a piece of me always goes out the door with what I'm making. Oh, it's love. Okay, that's 2. I do 3 lengths when I'm doing bulky yarn like this. And then it's for when you're casting on is what this is for. You'll need like enough to cast your stitches on. So one more time, I go up to my neck, do a measurement. Okay, and so here's my last, length. So that's like, it's like 3 arms lengths, right? 3 fingertips to your like neck along your arm measured. Then what you do is you have to make a knot, a slip knot. So I go wrap it around your finger once. This is the side that has the ball of yarn, obviously, right? Because here's the tail. So I'm gonna get rid of that now. So I wrap once around my finger, wrap twice around my finger, just grab it, pull this over once, and pull it over twice, and now I have a slip knot, right? Like, slip knot, that's what you want. That's what you want when you're working with this stuff. So, okay, one more time. So, once, twice, over once, over twice. There's my slip knot. So again, this is the side that has the ball of yarn attached. This is the tail. I'm gonna take my circular needles now and put them in. If I can get them in my hands, hooray. Okay, so put it in. Here's where, you know, the slip knot part comes in handy because I have to tighten it onto my needle. There. Don't pull like super ridiculous hard because you want it to be able to slide, right? Like you have to be able to work with it. Okay, so I've got it tightened on there a little bit. So now this is how you cast on. Well, this is how I cast on. There's different ways to do this. Like, you don't have to do it my way. If you're comfortable doing it another way, go ahead. But this is what I like to do. Okay, so I'm gonna take my yarn over here, and I have to like flip it over. Like you need a loop basically. But if I tried to put this on, it's just gonna fall off, right? So you have to like cross it. So I flip it like this, put it on here, right? You see that? Okay, put it on. Then you take this yarn, and again, this one's attached to the ball. I wrap it around from the back to the front, and then I take this little loop part, put it over top, and it's like it's tied a knot, and now I pull it. Okay, we'll take that off, we'll do it again, because if you're like me, you probably didn't catch it the very first time. So again, ball side, tail side. Okay, so I'm going to take this. This is just how I do it. If you can figure out like whatever way you get comfortable with, this is just what works for me. What I'm doing with my fingers. Stick it on here like this. Back to front. And pop it off. And then you just give it a little gentle tug. Again, you have to be able to slide it up and down, so, but you also don't want it like super loose or you'll end up with like big holes in your scarf. So yeah, you just want to figure out what tension works, you know, snug but still able to slide. Okay, so we're gonna do this for a while now, guys, so buckle in. You know, pause the video if you need to. I'm gonna try and fast forward this ahead because nobody wants to, you know, spend hours watching me cast on. That's like annoying. Okay, so anyway, this is just casting on. We'll do a couple of these and then skip her ahead. So you're gonna cast on 111 stitches. That's what I want. 111. You have to have an odd number. It has to be an odd number. So if you end up, you only got like 109, like don't worry about it. If you get 115, don't worry about it. Your scarf will just be a tiny bit bigger or a tiny bit smaller. Like, who cares, right? Whatever. It doesn't have to be exact. But yeah. Get to an odd number, and I'll see you back here in a minute. Okay, so I just did 107, so I'm gonna do my last couple with you guys. So here's 108, 109, 110, and 111. Okay, so I have this like tail left over. It's pretty long. I don't usually like leaving this long of a tail when I'm working with stuff. So there we go. Easy. Fabulous. Easy to work with now. Okay. So the reason we're using circular needles for this is because we're going to have to join it up. Okay. So it doesn't matter when you're starting if you have the yarn in your left hand or if you have the yarn in your right hand. I am right-handed, so I always keep my working yarn, it's called, on the right, because that's the hand that I like pull my yarn over with, right? If you're gonna like yarn over, right? Like as you do. So I'm right-handed, that's what I do. If you're left-handed, I'll see if my friend Kristen will make you a video because she's left-handed. Anyway, okay, so what you're gonna do now is you've got all these stitches, you know, on this loop. You have to join them up. That's the whole point of the circulars. So you just kind of like shove them up onto the other needle so you have some on both, right? Because that's how you work with them. So all these stitches on your left hand side are going to end up coming over onto the right, which is what we want. But you can't just start knitting them. You have to like cross them over each other just for the very first one, just to give them like a spot where they're going to not fall apart. So this is the trickiest part. Once you get past this, it is completely smooth sailing. You'll be good to go. So this is just how I keep tension when I'm knitting. I just like wrap over my pinky and then over my pointer finger, but you know, whatever works. Some people don't even use tension. It's not really that big a deal. I hold this tail sturdy in my hand while I'm doing this part, because if this slips off, your stitch will come undone. You have to start over. It sucks. It's happened to me. It'll happen to you, I'm sure, at some point. If it doesn't, you're a pro and you should probably be doing your own videos. Why are you watching mine? Mine are like pretty lame. Anyway, yeah, so the best thing to do, you just take one stitch over and then you're gonna cross this stitch over. This is the part where if you lose this tail, it's gonna, you know, have an impact. So I want to keep the stitch that I just put onto the right needle on there, so I have to like sneak it under. Like, can you see what I'm doing? I don't know if you can see what I'm doing. Here, I'll start over. Okay, so this is the one I was just gonna pull off, right? Okay, so I just pulled this guy over, and now I have to pull this one onto the other needle. So I'll hold this guy steady, keep him on here. There. Okay. So right now they're like crossed over each other. But that's good. That's what we want. Okay. That was like out of focus for you guys. I can do it one more time. Just hopefully it'll stay in focus. So see, this one has come undone, right? Because I lost the tail. So I just have to pop it back on there. Tighten it up again. Put this guy back on where he goes. It doesn't always even have to be like, move this one first. Like, you can move that one last if that's easier for your life. Like, just, you know. I haven't really noticed that it makes a huge difference, so do whatever's in your heart makes you happy. Like there, we can put that one over first. And then move this one over top. Just gotta like wiggle it so that that other one stays on there and doesn't pull off with it. There we go. Done. Sorted. Handled. Okay. Easy enough. So now we start knitting them together. Okay, so again, this is my working yarn. Keep it on the right. The other important thing you have to pay attention to is like these have a tendency to kind of like twist around on you. You want to make sure that they're not like super twisty. If it's like twisted around, your scarf's gonna look crooked, it's gonna be weird. So always make sure that all these, like these little knots that are the base, are all, you know, pointed to the center before you get started making your round now. That's what we're gonna do. Okay, so again, I have to pull this stupid little tail tight the first stitch. Otherwise the whole thing's gonna fall apart and we're gonna have a bad time. So again, this is gonna be the hardest part of what you have to do. After this, you'll be a pro. Okay, so we have to start knitting and then purling right away. So the first stitch I do is a knit. So you go from the bottom to the top, right? Hold this, I'm gonna hold this tail in my other hand again. I'm gonna go from the back to the front and pull it off. Now, that is gonna look horrible. So I have to kind of wiggle, you know, wiggle the yarn, make a little tiny bit of a, like of a pull. Basically, like I'm trying to get this to look like those other knots were, is what I'm trying to do. But that's probably the best I can get it right now. Whatever, it's fine. You'll figure it out. You can move the yarn around after. It's manipulation, people. You can do it. Okay, so get this all organized again. Okay, so I just did a knit stitch. Now I have to do a purl. In order to do a purl, you have to bring your yarn from the back of your work to the front. So this is called a yarn over. Okay, so I'm moving it to the front. Now I'm gonna have to go in from the top down this time. Before I was going from the bottom up. This time I'm going top down. Okay, so I'm top down. I'm always going again from the back to the front, but you always cross just between the two needles, right? So cross it in. Oh, I missed it, so I have to do it again. Okay. So like, I haven't done anything different, right? This is the one stitch that I knitted on. So I'm bringing my yarn over. I'm going top down. Don't split, pick up the other stitch. I'm going, you know, around from back to front. And popping that off. Okay. There we go. And now I have to push it to the back again. Now I do a knit stitch. So knitting is from bottom to the top. Right, so from the bottom to the top. I'm just trying to hold these so you can see them better, so. And again, back from the, or wrap from the back to the front, in between those two. And slide it off. Okay, so that's a knit stitch. Now I have to do another purl. So I'm going to pull my yarn to the front. And I'm going to go top down this time. I'm going to pull my yarn from the back to the front. And slide that off. Now back to the back, so I can do a knit stitch from the bottom to the top, back to front. Okay, now see what I've done here? This is because I've split the yarn. That's gonna look awful, so I'm gonna undo what I just did. So see what I did was I left this behind when I put my yarn in, so that's awful. Okay, so looking at the stitches that I've just worked, the first one was my knit. See this little bump here? That's a purl stitch. This one doesn't have a bump. I mean, it kind of looks like it does, but it won't later on. This one does have a bump. If I hold them up like that, do you see the difference? So that's purl, knit, purl. So I'm pulling this yarn to the back again so I can do that knit. This time I want to make sure I don't split this yarn. Got to get this whole needle on that whole loop. back to front, carry on. Okay, so you just keep going. Now I'm back, I moved my yarn to the front. I have to do another purl stitch, so top down, wrap it, pull it off. Switch the yarn to the back. Every time you're moving that yarn, that's when you're making those little bumps. Okay, so that's what's doing it. Now I'm back to doing a knit stitch. Now a purl stitch. And now a knit stitch. And now a purl stitch. Move my yarn, do a knit stitch, whoops, knit stitch, and then move your yarn and do a purl stitch. Okay, so I can see where this tail is, and I know that's where, like, this is where I started, right? This was my knit. This is that weird crossover, so that's why it looks like an X on my needle, right? So this was my very first knit, and this was my very first purl. So when I get back to here, this will be like the end of what I've done. I should be knitting in this purl stitch and purling in this knit stitch when I get back here. So again, I'm going to pause the camera, give you a chance to finish your knitting and your purling, you know, catch up. When we get to here, I'll start the video again a little closer. We'll see where we end up together. Okay? All right, BRB. Okay, I'm not done, but I just wanted to show you something else, because I get this a lot too when I'm teaching people this. They're like, oh, like my stitches are so far down. Well, just keep sliding them back up. Like, don't work them when they're down here. You're gonna end up with big giant holes in your like stitches, and it's gonna look awful. So just keep sliding them up. Like, you can slide these ones off, you know, like pull them, just string them along. That's the whole point of this, you know. Just keep them moving and just keep going. Knitting. And purling. Knitting. And purling. And then just keep scrunching them up. You can do it, I know you can. Okay, we're getting close to the end of like the tail of the first row, so just gonna finish it up with my knit, my purl, my knit. Make sure that tail is good and secure again, and my purl. Okay, so this always happens. You'll end up with a big giant hole. Don't let this tail flip over to the other side. It's gonna make a hole. So again, okay, I know I have to do one more knit, right? Because I just did a purl and I pulled my yarn to the back. So keep this tail up front where it belongs. To knit this guy. I'm splitting the yarn again. Sorry, I'm trying to hold this so like you guys can see, but also so that I can deal with it. So it's kind of a little weird, but we'll get there. There you go. So knit it. Get that tail up front where it belongs. Knit. And one more purl. Boom, done. Okay. So, just give that tail another little pull. Okay, so now you can see where we're starting our row again where we had, you know, left off before. So this bump means that this stitch had been purled to start with, right? So this was a purled, a knit, a purled, a knit, a purled, a knit, a purled, a knit, blah, blah, blah. So I don't purl into a purl, because then what that does is it builds up all these bumps right on top of each other, and it builds up little V's right on top of each other. So then you'd end up with like a row of bumps and then a row of V's and then a row of bumps, a row of V's. We're going for this look again, right? Like, so that it's opposite. Like, these are the purled stitches, the ones with the bumps. And this is a knit. Like, it's like a V kind of thing. Hello. Yeah, so we're looking for all the bumps alternating with the V's, so that's what we're doing. Okay, so anytime there is a bump stitch, now I know, now I have to knit into that one. So again, that's why we do an odd number, because then we're always knitting into an existing purl and purling into an existing knit. Okay, so literally just do this, you know, around and around for a few hours, you know, watch TV, do whatever you want, enjoy your life, and yeah, come back when you're ready to cast off and we'll have a look at that. That'll be our next job. Okay, so again, see you when this is big. So again, you don't have to do exactly as many rows as I do. Like, this is actually a little bit narrower. I usually like to make them quite wide, like so that they're nice and chunky and cozy on your head. So this one has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, like 13 rows of purls. So that's like 26 rows. Just stop whenever you feel like it. Like, it's your life. Make your own decisions. Okay, so BRB.